We are live. House of Trust live stream today with a dear friend, Kaspar. Welcome.
Glad to be here. Hi, Stefan. I'm excited. Excited to be here in the next hour.
Thank you so much for your time. And as a short introduction, guys, today we are joined by someone who have seen entrepreneurship from multiple perspectives, not only as a founder, but also as an investor, mentor, and someone who has spent years helping companies grow. Kaspar Neftel has built businesses, worked closely with founders, and is now actively shaping the next generation of entrepreneurship through investing and mentoring. Today, we will explore the lessons behind the success stories, the difficult moments that rarely get talked about, and what it truly takes to build enduring companies. I'm super excited about today's talk with you, Casper. And first of all, I would just like to know more about your journey. What was originally the spark that started your entrepreneurial journey and mindsets?
Thanks, Stefan. It's a good question. I would say I had two major influences from my parents. One is let's say a very sensitive, creative one. My mother was a musician, a violin player, so there was lots of music, lots of creativity, but lots of anxiety. Oh God, I gotta have a concert. I have to practice this and that. And then my father, he was a doctor, very successful scientist, professional ski racer. So that was very much you either get it and you go get it, or you're out. That was like those two influences I had. So I think that actually entrepreneurship I started out of an insecurity. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do after school.
Mhm.
I felt that those predetermined biographies, I'm going to study this and then I'm going to become that. And it just didn't feel right. But I think, if I'm very honest, I was afraid I might fail or lose, in some way. And so, and on the other hand, I was very, because of my father into sports. And in sports, you learn that discipline will take you somewhere. You see results and you overcome, you train hard, you see results. So it's a bit no pain, no gain. And I think out of this, I just had an impulse that I'm gonna do something. I want to make something, and and that actually got me into my first entrepreneurial surrounding. I was a father of a school friend, had a music publishing company,
Mhm.
and he had, I don't know, some picture rights, so celebrity pictures he bought from a photographer that I don't know, needed money. And so they had tons of pictures, and I saw all his golden records from the music rights he was representing. And so I thought, yeah, rights in music, rights in pictures could be a business. So, and I asked him, can I monetize that
Mhm.
and start selling that to, I don't know, magazines? And so I heard that, yeah, there's crazy uh, money paid for like exclusive celebrity pictures. Well, and then I started to doing that. I had no clue of nothing. I had no clue in any sense of what I was doing.
Mhm.
I just a bit in the sports manner started and didn't stop. So I never had a job. I never applied in my life for a job.
Mhm.
And this, what I started there and didn't stop, then ended up to become a, I don't know, a 40 million plus revenue, I don't know, employing over 100 something people,
Mhm.
company with different entities and offices around the world, representing some of the world's leading top celebrities regarding their IP.
Mhm.
But actually, a first, I think, motivation, and that's a big mistake I made, which I recognize many, many years later,
Mhm.
um, was that I figured, oh, I'm successful, or I have a title. I could call myself general manager. I'm an entrepreneur. I have my company. Um, that kind of gives me security. That
Mhm.
I am someone. So I kind of created a cover up, which appeared successful, which appeared strong. So I kind of created a version of myself, which I thought I must be like that, because successful people do this, they do that, which is totally bullshit because it doesn't work like that. The problem was that actually just by me, pushing, and just didn't stop, it created actually some success. I started then after, I don't know, 1 year of just, trying, and I wouldn't sell one of those pictures. And then I said, yeah, but I cannot give up. I told everybody I'm a successful entrepreneur, so I have to deliver somehow. So I just started different things. And then actually what kind of made it take off was that I went directly to celebrities and asked them to be the one that would monetize their image and picture rights, because they would have, for everything, merchandise and this and that, they would have a partner, but for their kind of personal rights, the photos that would appear in magazines and so on, there wasn't a partner. And so they liked that. And then suddenly, I got into the game. But the underlying force was, I would say, in the first years, to appear successful and to appear strong. But actually, I would say very insecure. But I created a version that appeared successful. So that was kind of my start into entrepreneurship.
Super interesting. And how was it for you? I mean, by entering the entrepreneurial journey as your first working station, you are doing learning by doing. How were you adapting? How were you learning? How were you taking on lessons? Do you had mentors and coaches along this journey?
Um, yes and no. I had a partner, and then I had started building a team. So I had like close allies in the team, which one would call co-founders. Um, I think it, and that was, on the one hand side, was fun. I like this, this together feeling. We have one goal, we achieve, we had lots of fun. It was like, friends, doing a company, and we would be, celebrating all the successes, and we would kind of grow together. That was cool. I would say I didn't understand the mentorship. Also, I started to understand it later, and that's also a big motivation for me to do that, because I would say, partly doing something that I wished I had at that time. I would say that the culture I had in most of the partnerships, the initial one and then others, was very much, I would say, a one-sided success aspect, which is, if you generate money, if you generate revenue, if you have power, then you're successful. Don't cry, because weak is not good, because then you're not made for that. And so I kind of started to adopt this behavior, which I also, like in the first year, put into the culture of my company, which nowadays I would say it's absolutely wrong, and it's not me. It's not my style, and it's not who I am. But as I said, I thought that if you want to be successful, you need to be like that. Which is also a big mistake, to actually create a proxy of success, because success, as the word says, like from succedere, which is Latin, which means it's following up on something. Erfolg in German is folgt, which means that success kind of is a side effect of a certain behavior, of a certain attitude, of a certain action over time, that will lead into success. Success is not a static thing. Many people make it appear like that, because they give like success, I don't know, a status, or there's certain founders that have kind of create a guru a halo around themselves.
Mm,
But I think that's not what success is. Success is is over a longer time,
mhm,
an activity, a behavior where you can say, yeah, that's me. You know, that's truly me. I'm doing every day something that comes out of me and that represents me, and then that's integrity, that's true to me. And I didn't get that. And also I think being actually insecure,
mhm,
I misconnected, criticism, or looking up to people in terms of how, hey, can I learn something from you,
mhm,
or even asking for help. I think I would consider that as a weakness,
mm,
And so I kind of admit I'm not good enough, so I'm not weak.
mm.
So and I actually made it much, much harder. So actually my only learning was running against walls, failure, and then trying again, try open every every door, and then one would open, and then next, trying again. So I think I could have spent lots of pain, lots of worrying, suffering, if I, would have understood this principle earlier in my life.
That was exactly the next question that I wanted to ask you. What do you wish you had understood earlier? Would this be your answer?
Well, I think it's something broader. I think I would have loved to understand that entrepreneurship is not about success or a status, like something to do with you have power, or you have control, or you have wealth,
Mm,
and then you don't have to work anymore. This kind of silly, this silly pictures of you don't have to work anymore. Um, so I think I would have loved to understand that entrepreneurship is perhaps the most true form of self-realization, you know,
mm,
and that at its core is nothing that has to do with money or with one of those status items I just mentioned. What is at the core is your interest in something, your passion is something where you would say that's that's me, and that's perhaps the biggest version of myself.
mhm,
And there's a very good, I don't know if you know Rick Rubin, which is a
mhm,
very high level record producer, a super cool guy with a long beard.
mhm,
And he was asked, well, I think in his book, The Creative Act, which is a great book, everybody
mhm,
should read that because he describes creativity in an extreme great way. He said that what he recommends to his artists is like you have to make your offer to the world.
mhm,
And I think that's, I mean, it's very broad, but I think it's very true. And I would say that's the source of successful entrepreneurism is that you think, okay, what is my offer to the world? It could be anything. It could be, I want to make people laugh, or I want to make people feel good, or I want to solve problems. I'm an engineer. I want to build something,
mhm,
or I want to, I don't know, create world records. I want to outperform. So there's different things that can come out of you, which you can consider as your offer to the world,
mhm,
because there is in everybody of us something very unique, and if you're able to identify that, and
mhm,
it could be, you can make a product out of this, you can make a service out of this, you can make content out of this, you can make a song, you can write a
mhm,
book, you can make a picture. It doesn't matter on what medium you realize yourself, but as long as you do it. And I would say that's the greatest underlying source and power that will take you over all of the positive failures you, I think, need to have.
mhm,
But because if you are coming from that source, then it's never existential, with me. And actually, that was my, the reason for my kind of personal pivot, kind of my,
mhm,
okay, I need to change something, is that I found myself, being quite successful from the outside. So I actually, the picture I wanted to fulfill of the strong, visionary entrepreneur,
mhm,
I think I was quite good at that. So people, yeah, they saw me and say, yeah. that's him. He's strong, he's visionary, he got everything under control. He has to deal with very interesting people. He's flying all over the world. So he's doing well. Mostly, I would say I was always afraid that this could go away, afraid that, I don't know, a client, a celebrity, someone, a partner would, I don't know, turn the back on me. So it was mainly always worrying, and an existential worry. And I think that's when you don't connect what you do with yourself, then you always, I think that's also a psychological, I don't know, syndrome, or I don't know the right word. It's a concept called the German, the Stellvertreter, so the representative complex, which means you actually, you choose someone, a partner, an employee, whatever. You choose someone as the representative for your success and for yourself. So I am only, if I have you as a partner, then I am also worth it. If you leave me, my existential foundation is kind of shaking, and that's very. It's very intense, because you're always in a kind of alarm mode. And I think if you have, because I never took the time to kind of rethink, is that what I'm doing actually what I want to do, and why am I doing this? And perhaps another aspect, perhaps I'm not the right entrepreneur, perhaps I have a great role in a company, but I might not be the right CEO. I might be the better, I don't know, the CMO, or I don't know. So I could also have all the entrepreneurial aspects, but perhaps a different role. It never came to me. It was always like, yeah, I need to do that. I need to kind of, stay up with all those benchmarks I set for myself, and I just have to perform. And I kind of then created kind of events. Okay, if I sell the company for this, if I get this kind, if I hit, I don't know, 100 million revenue, then everything's great. But I figured after certain or it never fulfills. There's always the bigger the revenue, or the bigger the company, the bigger the revenue, just the bigger the problems, and the greater the worries. That's the bottom line experienced. So I'd say I wish to have understood the concept of true, like the source of true entrepreneurship, in terms of what comes out of me, because what's such a great thing about entrepreneurship, if you look, it cuts across everything in society and people. There's no pattern for successful entrepreneurship. You see tall people, small people, you know, you see all kind of colors, all genders, everything. So I'd say success is the most, and fulfillment is the most democratic um, thing there is, because it cuts through everything. And that's what's so great, because that shows that there's no privileged pattern. Of course, you have, you know, surroundings where people have more money. I don't know whether that's better. You have surroundings where there's more knowledge. But if that would be the case, that this is the premise for being successful, there wouldn't be other people. Of course, some it's harder, but still they manage to become successful. So that shows success is something which is in everybody, or let's call it entrepreneurial, you know, realization, which leads to success. I think it's just something you need to start identifying, such as a, you know, as a journey which you begin and you will never stop. It'll last your whole life. It's a life decision. And yeah, so I took some years to to get there. Yeah, I would say that's what I would have loved to understood earlier.
Kaspar, first of all, I thank you for your openness and for the vulnerability, because I think that's not something that we often hear, especially in this predominant male, positive, successful, entrepreneurial world. So first of all, thank you so much. And secondly, this weekend we had a longer debate conversation about what does fulfillment means and what does success means. So just right at the point. And I just saw a beautiful conversation with the diary of the CEO, where there was this saying, someone's version of you has to die. You know, you have not to be afraid of becoming somebody that your parents or the environment is telling you you're not, right? So and talking about my own experience, I mean, for the long part of the past 10 years, I was believing that once I will achieve a certain goal, I will be successful or fulfilled or in peace. But then you realize that's not the truth. And it's about becoming, right? The journey shapes you. Now, when I would ask you, Casper, and for the ones listening, how many years does it took you to get to this realization?
Well, I think I understood it quite late. I think it was in my 40s, where I actually really took a change. I mean, I'd say that I had a, let's say, from the outside, a decent life. I have 7 kids, which is a great privilege. So
What a
I
blessing.
like to scale, so I also scaling there. But yeah, since there's 3 mothers to those children, so there was also unfulfilling, unsuccessful relationships. Also, yeah, failures there, which of course now I can look back and say, um, yeah, it's. I'm glad that I had those failures, but at the time, it's you hurt yourself, you hurt others. Um, I think I was in a kind of momentum, and I felt I need to move on. I actually never had the time, the space, and also I didn't have the concept of well, how does that work? I mean, may sound silly, but I didn't understand the concept of what that means, to be fulfilled, and what it means to accept, that things are dying and evolving and dying. And so did this. I think I was kind of making a little bit fun about this whole spirituality thing at that time, which I nowadays see very differently. Um, because yeah, I just had those, let's say, success parameters and say, yeah, I don't have time to do, I don't know, meditation. I have to run a company and I have to be successful, and Bob, I need to pay this stuff here, there. So
Hustle culture.
yeah, and because I had some wrong, I don't know, role models that I created for myself that say, if I'm like that,
Mm,
then I'm good. If I'm not like that,
mm,
then I'm not good. So
mm,
yeah, and I think this a concept of that, you understand that, first of all, you're going to die, so you're not afraid of death. I think many people,
mm,
if they're very honest with themselves, and I would say that's exactly the same for me, is we are, like, we are afraid of dying, like a a constant existential threat that is, there all the time. We try to, secure our future, to kind of anticipate and secure, anticipate, secure, and we're
mm,
looking for relief, you know.
mm,
So the partner, now everything is good. Now now you take care of
mm,
me, the job. Now I'm
mm,
it's a safe job, it's really safe. It's a big company. It's a safe job. It's a good job. And now I have so much money, I don't have ever to worry about money. So this deep desire for relief, and that's
mm,
very, we need to be very careful with that, because there's no such relief, because it's there already. It's yourself, the only relief is in you, by accepting the fact that you are gonna die, and that you are much, much stronger than you think you are, um, and that you don't need, closely as much as you think you are. So the
mm,
German word rich, reich, has the word es reicht in it. And I think it's a quite
mm,
good analogy. So mainly it's
mm,
enough. So I would say the terminology of wealth or being rich is, if you have a life where you can say, yeah, it's enough, it's as it
mhm,
is, it's enough. And that's, if you really think about it, has nothing to do with earning lots of money. It's an
mhm,
attitude. It's a perspective you choose, to take on yourself and on life and what you do. And I figured that to strive for big goals, also financially big goals. So it's not that I'm, don't want to strive for big numbers. But if you do that from a perspective of it's enough as it is right now, it gives you a tremendous freedom, and you can take yourself out of your way. I figured that, I mean, always the biggest enemy, also with every founder, is oneself. You're your biggest enemy. You're your hardest critic. You're your main dialogue partner, and you give yourself the hardest time ever. You're with no one in the world. You're so harsh with yourself, then with yourself. And
Yep.
if you're able to get yourself out of your way, and to kind of, let's say, liaise with the world and with the others in the world, to join to your project. So you're able to have a transcendental view on yourself. Then, you're really striving, because then you don't need to worry anymore about resistance, about worry. You have all your energy is free. It's unbound, because
Yes.
so much energy gets absorbed in resistance. I want to be right. No, 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 no. This has to be like that. No, I cannot do that, because then happens this. So all of that is some resistance, and that takes energy away. That sometimes for many people it feels so energetic to do something, that it's those, I need vacation, it's just I cannot do that anymore. And I very much believe, from my own experience, I had that too. Then I thought, I deserve something. I need to, I don't know, I don't know, buy something, or I have to vacation, or I deserve a free day where no one talks to me, whatever. And that's bullshit. I mean, of course you need your time, but take it all the time. And I think if you have so much energy wasted, to fight against something, then you're missing this energy to fight for what you actually want to do. Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And I mean, in my terms, in my world, when out of 10 years, yes, you trust, for the first 6 years, I was in this limiting belief that I have to create something to have fulfillment. I carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. I have to rescue the world. What a ego mindfuck. Sorry for my English. And then I had a moment when my body overreacted, and I was at my mom's place, 4 a.m., headache of my life, and I crashed on the floor. My body was not able to handle the stress anymore. And then in this moment, I was laying on the floor, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna die now. And then there was this deep, 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 deep realization, Kaspar, that the creator of the universe, he loves you and me unconditionally. We cannot deserve this love. This love is constant, 24/7. And if we are not feeling this love right now, then something, we ourselves are limiting us. So that was a really liberating experience. And I still strive for big goals, because we have big challenges in the world. So I want to be ambitious and use our time and capacity in the right way to influence and inspire and transform as many humans as possible. But it's a different acting. It's less pressure on myself. It's less acting out of ego. And at the end, I would just summarize. Yeah, it's a level of consciousness that you gain throughout the journey. Now, for all the founders listening, Kasper, uh, what are, let's say, the three golden nuggets that you are passing over to the next generation of founders that you have experienced? What would you say? What is something that you love to pass over to the next generation of founders?
Well, I think it starts with what I mentioned, this, let's call it, offer to the world. So I would say
Mhm.
that I always ask the founders, tell me, how's the world look like you're going to create? And then
Mhm.
most of them give me some numbers. Yeah, I'm gonna.
Should we make this exercise? Can I be the test? So you ask me the questions, and we make an
Yeah,
exercise out of
yeah.
it.
So tell me. Tell me,
Okay.
like the so if you're successful, yeah,
Yes.
if you created what you want to create, like
Yes.
what better future there is in the most highest, impactful way. Describe me the world. How does it look like?
In which time frame?
Indefinite, the
In
most ambitious version you can think of.
Okay, let me do it in steps. I would say we have an agenda 2030 where we have a goal to inspire and elevate 1 million humans to live a life of purpose, freedom, and impact. And beyond that, if I think about the next 10, 20, 30 years, it can be a bigger number than 1 million humans that we were able to support people to step out
Mhm,
from 9 to 5 and live a life of purpose. And when I feel that there is excitement and love in my body, right? So because I see so much potential, I see that everything is evolving, but we still have the same structures, we still have the same education system. So I really have a fire in my heart to
mhm,
inspire millions of people to break out, to
mhm,
discover their full potential,
mhm,
and first for adults and later on for children.
mhm,
Because how can we talk about systemic change if we don't offer an updated, personalized education system
mhm,
for our kids and the next
mhm.
generation? So that would be my
Yeah,
answer.
and I would ask you, well, why don't you go for a billion? Why the million? It's a small number. Why don't you go for a billion? That would be my first, question. Because the world is changing so much. If you look as like what's happening right now, I think it's historically because of
Yes.
AI as one thing, but there's another
Hmm.
thing which is not so obvious. I think it's the stronger
Hmm.
one. That the generations now, which are coming out of school, um,
Hmm.
are different than the ones before. They are um, much a much more mature, open generation,
Mm.
which has a very different relationship with authority. They're much more
Yes.
neutral with authority. So, meaning because you're the CEO, I don't per se follow everything you do. If you give me something which is useful, I will follow. But if you give me
Hmm.
bullshit, I will not follow. That's what I mean. So this means there's a new level of let's say loyalty towards authority, which has huge impact in organizations and how they can execute on decision making and so on. Because the punishing
Hmm.
and the gratification game does not work anymore.
Hmm.
So that's a very unique generation which is coming. Meaning also
Hmm.
they're much more entrepreneurial. They determine. I'm gonna start a company. I'm gonna be entrepreneur as a legitimate biography decision they're going to take,
Hmm.
because they had a different generation of parents, they grew up.
Yes.
So AI and that, I would say, shifts so much. And you're coming with
Hmm.
your idea, I would say a million is way too small. So you set a too low bar. The bar must be a billion and more, as a concrete target. I would say that. Then I would ask you, okay, now you succeeded to have this billion.
Hmm.
Um, how will you be then? Tell me how you're gonna what's the version of Stefan which has deserved those billion people? How are you? Explain me how you are, how you think, how you act, where you live.
It's interesting. I mean, when we generated the first financial success of 1 million and then 2.4 million, it was not special. I felt the same, right? So I don't know if myself I will feel different than today. Just there must be pure gratitude and fulfillment by being able to help many humans to break out. So my life will not change massively. I am super content with the life that we are living. I pray further for health of my wife and the kids and this environment. I mean, we see that we're going to have bases in Thailand,
Mm,
Portugal, Switzerland, where we have physical hubs where the community can meet, where activities can happen, where we have the school in place. So I don't know if so much would change internally or externally.
So you, I would say you're quite. I mean, you are a successful entrepreneur. So, but why I asked that is because I think, and I'm gonna come then into something more concrete. But
Please.
most most founders don't have an answer to that. They don't even
Mhm,
know what I mean with that.
mhm,
Why do I ask that? Because at the end of the day, if you think about it, you want to have something established in the world which is not there
mhm,
yet, whatever this is.
mhm,
It could be also, I don't know, some, I don't know, some e-commerce or B2C or whatsoever.
mhm,
um and this will, and you will, if, and at the end of the day, it is not a product, or it is, that those are all kind of volatile factors. They might come and go, they might pivot, they might change. What there
mhm,
will be is a version of yourself that has realized this success,
mhm,
this new future. And if you think of, okay, this is
mhm,
the version of me which
mhm,
deserves this success. And then
mhm,
if you think about it, how will I be? Some say, well, I will be, very interested, very focused. You know, I
mhm,
will be traveling around to experience certain things. Because I'm open. That's I source my creativity and this and that. And then I ask them,
mhm,
well, do you do that today? And I say,
mhm.
well, no, because I'm not. I said, well, you see the problem. You
Start to
know,
live, start to live in
you need
existence.
to live that now. You need to,
Mm,
and the biggest discipline, people have a wrong understanding what discipline is. Discipline is not, I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I torture myself because I want to be in the 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. club because I think then I'm successful. That's not
mm,
discipline. That's training, or it's just
mhm,
silly sometimes. But
mhm,
discipline
mhm,
is that if you live this future version, if you really get into the mindset of your future you that deserves this success, you will have doubts. You will have people, you will have feedback that make you feel out of, they being jealous or just the market,
mhm,
not understanding you, not reacting to you. So they will give you feedback which will make you doubt. Okay. The discipline is, no, I stay my successful version. That's
mhm,
so. And now I'm going to come into the very now. Then the third thing I would ask you, well, tell me, and that's now not working because you're already up and running. Then I might ask you
mhm,
different things. But with the founder, I would ask you to tell me, um, um, once now you told me the big vision and you told me the version of yourself, and we have created a very clear picture of your success and your
mhm,
realization as an entrepreneur. What you're going to
mhm,
do the first 100 days, which will pay into
mhm,
that, and be
mhm,
extremely specific.
mhm,
um,
mhm,
because there is something called a Stockdale paradoxon, which I think is one of the core success secret. And I don't know
mhm.
if you know the book From Good to Great from Jim Collins. It's kind of a startup Bible.
No.
It's a very famous book. And he has this Stockdale principle in the middle, or at the core of
Mhm,
his this description. What it is, Stockdale was some military guy, and he was in war prison. And it describes, and he always said, we will get out of here and we will have a happy life. So that was the big vision. That's one part. So it describes, you need to stand in your vision. Okay,
mhm, mhm,
no matter what, I will succeed. Okay, because that's me. I am already. This will be. At the
mhm.
same time, you have a ruthless acceptance and realization of the now, the reality. That's the 100
Yes,
days. So you might
yes.
have the deepest shit by your investor turned you down, your most valuable employee, your tech guy left, has been taken over
Mhm,
by competition, your biggest client just said no, whatever this is.
mhm,
um, you look right there into that, you deal with that, you learn from that, it's a data point, and you
mhm,
stay there. You know, this is a shit day. This and this and this happened. of
mm,
course I will succeed. The interesting thing is Stockdale is, and that's kind of the core. What he did is the Stockdale, Mr. Stockdale, after he was then
mm,
released, so he was right. He was
mhm,
asked, well, who died? And he said the
mhm,
optimists died due to a broken heart, which I think is a
mm,
very, very great. It's intelligent because the optimist is a, let's say, it's a minor belief and hope. That's the
mhm,
what I meant, the relief. I hope that something will come and will relieve me holistically, you know.
mm,
And what happens if this doesn't come? I'm devastated, you know.
mm,
Oh my God, you disappointed me so hard. I thought you were my savior. I gave you my,
mhm,
my reason to exist, and now you're leaving me. I'm dying. You
mm,
cannot do that with me. The life is unfair. So no, so that breaks your heart. If you're
mm,
able to stick in those two worlds, full in your vision, there is like, it's raining outside, and I ask, will ever the sun shine again? And then you say, of
mm,
course. They say, but when? But
mhm,
when? I don't know. It's raining. The sun. And you say, of course it will shine. I said, when? I say, I don't know. Now or tomorrow? I don't know. Check the weather app. So, for
mhm,
it's obviously, a self-fulfilling prophecy. It will shine again. And with this
mm,
certainty, you have to be with your big success, being in a total now, because then what happens is you
mhm,
de-emotionalize.
mm,
It's not an everyday live, die, live, die, live, die. It's,
mhm,
oh, interesting. Okay, why did he leave? Oh, interesting. The investor turned me down. You might have
mm,
consequences which are not so nice, but if you train, and that's the discipline part, yourself to, stand in the pain, to experience it. How does it feel, to be turned down from the investor? What do I feel? Because if you do that, you
mm,
neutralize it, and you see something very interesting versus you try to get rid of everything. Like there's the people. I always differentiate between so-called target-oriented people and solution-oriented people. I would not invest so much in solution-oriented, those
mhm,
to-do lists, and they're always efficient, efficiency, and solving. So they're always aware. But the
mhm,
the chance that they, or the likelihood that they would oversee something really
mhm,
great that takes them to the
mm,
big goal is so high, because
mm,
they're solving all the time. They're not thinking,
mm,
they're solving and acting. But sometimes you need to step back and say, okay, what's happening here? And that's this
mm,
this harsh and ruthless acceptance of reality. At the same time, you're the one who will succeed. And I would say that's
mm,
the strongest principle. And what this does, it puts a hell lot of energy in your organization. If your people
mm,
see you as, like, something I don't know, like you've been there already. It's like the ski
mm,
racers, they walk up the hill backwards, or the Formula One drivers, you see them go like that before they race. They've been there already, and that's, you got to do the same
yes,
with your success. You have to be so into your version which will be
mm,
successful. And
mm,
then get into the now, and at this spread, because I've seen many people who have this visionary, they can convey people, and they make them feel good, and then they're strong salespeople, but they
mm,
lose their magic very fast because they're not able to
mm,
deliver, because they always
mm,
run into the next big thing. So
mm,
they create kind of an ideation flow all the time, but they don't manifest. The
mm,
other opposite is the ones who like work, 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 data, work, 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 work. So when they pitch, it's like, yeah, it's that and
mm,
this and here and there and there, and and then that's the data and this and that, and so, and it's all
mm,
perfectly shaped. It's all in
mm,
line, and every Excel and every financial model, it's so perfect. And they might tell you what will happen in the August 19th, 5 o'clock in the
mm,
afternoon. But does that
mm,
give you a feel of, wow, this will be huge? No, you know,
mm,
that's more, I want to be right. I want to be right. I don't
mm,
trust myself. I don't trust
mm,
myself. I need to be right, and I need to reconfirm that I'm right all the time, every day. Um,
mm.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And somehow maybe that explains also why my life, or I would not feel different than today, Casper, because I'm already living in the reality where we have
That's the
educated
right
1 million
answer. Yeah.
humans. And if we have educated 1 million humans, Yes You Trust is generating 1.39 billion Swiss francs revenue. And this is the reality I live in today. And why you also asked me about why 1 million, not 1 billion, because somehow I feel sometimes you could overwhelm or push people away who have a limited capacity of the future, right? So if I already come now and say by Agenda 2030, we're going to have achieved 1 million humans wanting to go through the School of Impact, we have generated 1.39 billion. That's already for many, many people not capable to digest. So if I come up with 1 billion, I'm not going to speak out the numbers because it's going to
Yeah.
go crazy. And so just to finish, I love that people like Steve Jobs, Muhammad Ali, but also Conor McGregor, they already were seeing themselves as the champion, or they saw already shaping the reality in the way they were seeing it. And at the same time, it's so important to, as you said, to make the baby steps. You can have the craziest visions, you can live already in your reality, but be delusional and never achieve it by not doing the baby steps that you mentioned, the 100-day plan to reverse engineer, right? So
Yeah.
super interesting, super interesting.
I think with the numbers, I understand what you're saying. I would say, I mean, it depends a little bit to who you even talk. If you talk to an investor, I would always start with the biggest, ridiculously huge number you can think of. You must be defendable. You must defend your number. You must have a very solid understanding of your market with all the qualitative and quantitative aspects in that market. That's absolutely crucial, but go for the biggest number. You know, if there's like, I don't know, 10 billion or whatever of people or of potential, then why go for a million? Go for a billion. You know, that's because that's also the problem with funding. Many do. They say we're raising a 3.5 million seed round to get to the next steps. Okay, wow. Well, now and what's the next steps and what's happening then? If you tell me we're raising, so we're gonna go for the billion, to get there we need 100 million. Today we're raising 3.5. What sounds better? You know, first of all, if you read Slow and Fast Thinking from Daniel Kahneman, great book, the brain is not so smart. So if you anchor with high numbers, yeah, if I throw the number billion at you, and then I come back to, you know, now I'm gonna raise a million, it seems very small, you know. So it's a strong effect. And secondly, you re-engineer the big picture into the now, and you give me the feeling, wow, I can participate. You know, now I can step in, and then I will be part of this journey, and my entry ticket is not so high. You know, so I saw that being a very, very profound method.
Kasper, you lived and worked big part in the US. Would you say that this mindset also is coming from there and it's different to the traditional Swiss mindset?
Yes. Well, what I love about America is that I think, of course, it's a huge market. You know, that I think that's like if Europe was one market. You know, then that's the mindset on just on the market. And if you're such a big market, I think then you always go for the world. You know, because so if we're able to achieve our market, you know, let's do the world. So I think that's one thing. The other thing is that they see somehow things are built by people, you know, and so if it can be built, it can be done, and if it can be done by I don't know, you know, Steve Jobs, it can also be done by me, you know. Here in Europe or Germany, Switzerland, it has something like it's been there forever. You know, like I don't know, BMW is just somehow people BMW came or was like put there by the state or by a king, and it was always there. So it's kind of depersonalized. You know, in America is yeah, someone built that. What fucking amazing is that, you know, that it can get so big? It's amazing, you know, it's possible, it's possible. And I think this culture is very much, you know, working there. So there's always this, anything can be done. And then out of this, I think there's the like the Silicon Valley, which you see is just generations of founders who reinvest into founders, you know, and that creates this amazing ecosystem.
Yes.
And it's just a total different openness. I mean, they're also very much performance driven, you know, they're extremely performance driven. So you have to work, but it is not, you know, you might be, you know, you want to do something bad to me, or oh, you might have more than me, you know, this whole envy stuff, this being, oh, yeah, I have to earn my trust. I mean, what bullshit. What is earn my trust? You know, I give you my trust, and then you take my trust, and then, well, you might violate my trust, and then I might reconsider, but first I give it, because that's the only way how things work. You know, I need to make myself vulnerable, you know, because why should you give your trust if I don't give my trust? You know, then we are like that, and we you know, that's what happens, I think, in Germany and Switzerland. So yeah, I love America. It's a great country, great people. I mean, from what I saw, so I have not been everywhere, but where I was, it was really great.
Now, Kaspar, I love that you exactly just described how the founders become investors, and then they invest in the next generation of founders. And that's also exactly what you do. Now, how can we bring Switzerland landmark? And I saw recently a number compared of how much VC capital is invested in US compared to Europe. How can we achieve quantum leap? How can we advance Switzerland in Europe without needing to have hundreds of Kaspars out there? What would be your approach?
Well, I think there are many great people already there. That's what I see. I think that those great people who are there must be addressed more. You know, I met a couple of times, and that was struck with me, like really, you know, billionaires or like very high profile people in their position and their role, and they told me, you know, I'm never asked. People don't ask me. You know, I'm sitting in the board, but they never ask me. So I think there's so much
potential
respect, or well, they're anyway not going to talk to me. They're anyway not going to reply to me, and so, and that's also an American thing. You know, just try to get into the visibility of a person. Just try. You know, go there and I don't know. You know, wait there. So I think there are great people, and they should be approached more. That's one thing I would say, and encourage founders to do that. The second thing is I think what you're doing is, at the end of the day, the investor is let's say it's a result, or it's a consequence of strong founders. The founder is the asset. You know, the founder can decide whose money he or she will take and wants to take. So the founder is everything and anything. It's all about the founder, you know. So I think if you know, people like you create let's say new layers, that the new founders and at the end of the day, I mean, what is a founder, an entrepreneur? It's a decision. It's what is success? It's a decision. It's an attitude, nothing more. So it's, I decide to become a founder. I decide to, and life is a verb. It's you live. That life is something you do all the time. So it's, as you said very rightly, it's something I become. You know, and so it's a decision. You know, to realize myself by doing something entrepreneurial, bringing something into the world, creating impact. So, and I think it starts with an understanding, with a mindset, and it starts very early. So I think that what you do is a very, let's say, very, very relevant source of a fuel, which will then lead to a growing ecosystem.
Thank you so much, Kaspar. One question that I was keen to ask you is, how did your lens changed from being an entrepreneur to an investor?
Well, I to have both lenses is great. It's a great privilege because I understood how important this relationship is. Sometimes founder have a wrong view of the investor. Like, yeah, it's just the money. You know, So what could happen? They pick the wrong investor. The investor doesn't fit. Actually, if you ask yourself, well, if this person wouldn't give me the money or invest in me, would I want to spend time with this person? If it's a no, well, I then really should consider to take the money in the beginning. We're talking early. We're not talking, venture capital or private equity. So we're talking angel investment. It's a very, intimate relationship, which can be very success inherent, or it can be the opposite, that suddenly the founder feels like, oh, I have to kind of fulfill the investor's demands, and the investor goes like, I gave you my money and you don't fuck it up. That happens still. I think it changed. I think the founder maturity evolved, which I think is great. But so this relationship is very important. That's what I learned. The other thing I learned is that the investor, what is investing? Investing is delayed gratification. Okay. I do something now, I invest something now, and I accept that my reward for my invest comes later. So I invest into, that's why I don't invest in ideas, I invest in founders. I invest into a mindset, an attitude. I invest into a drive of a founder. That is something I need to understand from the investor's view. So I don't go mad about, pitch decks and numbers and, P&L in year number 5 when we're talking in an early stage investment, because knowing that 90% of all business models will pivot. So what are we talking about? And then by this, neglecting the relevant thing is that what kind of person am I investing into? So that's from investor side, and from founder side is to understand what does my investor needs to understand. And mainly, that's what I meant earlier, to show the whole journey, to show I thought it through. And it's nothing to do with that I need to fulfill on that journey, because as I said, I will pivot. But if I have thought it through, it gives a better feeling for the investor, because he will know when things will change. I've been there, There was a great thing about Boris Becker, the tennis player. They asked him, he was a master in tie breaks. He won most tie breaks. And I think after one tie break, he against Edberg or so, they asked him, well, why is that? And then he was like, he said, is it because you're experienced, you're this and that? And he said, no, I played the tiebreak already yesterday. I won it already. That's now just the execution. So he was saying that he went through those tiebreaks beforehand. And I think that's something very strong. And I think that's, if you're able to visualize your journey and to be able to rationalize it, by, okay, those are the steps. That's my capital demand. Those are, I don't know, that I'm going to go with 4 rounds. I will be at that revenue level. So be very precise, and it will come different. It will come different. But if you have planned it, you know where it comes different. And then you've been there, and you will react differently. Rather, if you say, well, I don't know nothing, or you I don't know, you just you make a nice, I don't know, Claude or ChatGPT, roadmap, that doesn't work. You need to live it through yourself, and a good investor will sense that, and then he will follow.
Thank you so
And I
much.
think, one thing, and it's, as I said at the beginning, you need to have this transcendental view. So you should liaise with your investor, saying, hey, let us to be successful. I mean, we have different roles. I'm the investor. You're the operational founder. That's why you will have the majority stake of the company. You're the guy in charge. Okay, now let's work together on that. and then you can take a view on yourself. So we're not like I'm criticizing and you need to defend. No, we are allies. We look together on our project. We have different roles, but that's very freeing. So yeah, that's what I would say.
I wished that more investors would have this mindset. I believe that many investors are not there yet. I think often it's just maximizing profits. But yeah, I also see that our network is different. And I see it often when we come to other conferences or when our network meet other networks, that somehow the mentors and investors in our network are different. They are much more focused on different types of exchange, not just monetary exchange. Yes, it's one of the pillars, right? But there is also an exchange of inspiration between a founder and an investor. It's about shared experiences. It's about building real friendships and relationships. And that's what I really love to see. Now, Kaspar, with everything what you have done and experienced in your life, what excites you now next? What excites you today and what ahead?
I mean, I try to live very much now. So what exciting to me is dialogues like that. And it's for me a deep satisfaction, because it shows me that life and the world is the greatest thing there is. Because I have when I had my this my personal pivot, where I said I need to get rid of this version that is fighting and has this wrong success proxy. I need to get into a journey to understand who I am and what I want. And that was a tough year, 1 or 2 years, because I broke up with many relationships, partnerships. I gave up lots of potential great, I don't know, companies and opportunities, where people like, are you mad? Are you killing yourself? And I somehow had this existential threat, like, oh my God, I have so many kids, and but I somehow could not go back. It wasn't like I would betray myself. But I had an idea of, I want to do that what I'm doing now, and to sit here with you and to do that is a fulfillment. And that's just, if you understand that it works, then you don't need to be so much worrying about the future. You should be more, give life into time. I think life is time, but you give it the life, and you give it by living. And that's what you do right now. So I would say, yes, I try to be right now, and I try to create great moments and just put them after the other, not worry so much about the future. So I would say I'm very now driven. And I would say that I have a mission, which um, is is supporting entrepreneurs, because I think that's the source of all innovation, of all great things. um, I would always keep on being an entrepreneur myself, starting new companies, realizing ideas, um, and also failing. Failure is a great source. It's a great source of relationships. I had many great relationships that started with failures, because then you really have to decide, okay, what am I going to do now? How I might walk away and go like blaming, or I'm a victim, or I'm say no. I'm standing here and I have a position. I take responsibility. And sometimes the greatest relationships start with a failure. So yeah, I will be becoming that, and my mission is to support founders to realize themselves, and to help them on because it's sometimes a lonely journey, and to um yeah to make them not feel lonely, because at the worst they're always with themselves, because the most important relationship you have in life is with life or with yourself. So you're never alone, you always have yourself. And to understand that, and to kind of be a backup for that, to remind them and to get them going. That's kind of the investment side. Yeah, that's what I want to do. And yeah, and then if I look back and say, okay, that was well lived. I tried, I gave my best, and I did what I could. And some things went well, and some not great. That's how I try to do it. So that's my discipline, to be that person.
I love it, and so inspirational. And there are two things that come to my mind. One was when we were meeting with you and Sigi, and you guys mentioned we never invest in founders that if we get a call at 2 a.m., that if we feel annoyed, that's not somebody we want to enter a relationship with or invest in. And secondly, what also deeply inspired me was the message of, hey, Steph, listen, we invest in a founder, in a first-time founder, and he might fail with a huge chance, but we would take it. We would still invest in this founder with the permission that we can invest in his second venture, right? And that's for me a really special mindset. Now, Kaspar, is there already information that we can disclose and share about the new fund that you guys are setting up?
Well, I mean, it's not a fund. It's an investment company with which we started with some friends and partners, and we do, yeah. So we invest money into founders, into early stage startups. That's not so special. I think what is special is that we apply a very successful psychological transformational method from a partner also involved in our investment company. One of the most successful transformation architect in Europe has an own method, the so-called 9-field matrix. And with this 9-field matrix, we identify the so-called natural change leader, and we measure the drive. And the drive is not a movement drive. The drive is the, let's say, free available energy in people, which is not held back by resistance. That's kind of, let's say, the very simple proxy. And because he's very successful in transformation of all big corporate companies in Europe, many big investors, when buying companies, transforming companies, work with him. And I got to know him a couple of years ago, and I thought, well, what you do is highly unfair. You spend your time on a very high day rate for the big companies, but actually who needs it most is the founders, the startup founders.
Yes.
So we actually de-risk for the founder because they know more about themselves. When they start, they can build a better team. When you know more about yourself, you are able to interact better. What works with me and what doesn't work with me. And also we take the de-risk for other joining investors. So I think that's so we're very, very founder centric. That's why we invest in founders and not so much in ideas. Yeah,
I love it, and I'm excited, and I would be super keen to explore further how we can implement this technique, this framework into the School of Impact, because at the end of the day, it's about a vetting process for our network of investors, and we want to vet the founders and their amazing ideas. So the investors can come back and say, hey, Steph, you did an amazing job. You're presenting us quarterly, super exciting founders, stable founders with potent ideas and ventures. So yeah, super excited to explore there more. I already see we are over time, but we're gonna take two more minutes. One question that I wanted to ask you, Kaspar, is why did you decide to also become a mentor in Yes You Trust for the next generation of founders?
Because I met you. Quite simple. No, you have we met at a dinner of a great investor we both know, and no, I'm very much. I think I think you identify winners at the start. You see very early, and then if you just listen to your gut feeling, you know quite well, is there energy, and that's what I felt when I met you. And that's interesting. And that I would say a deep reason why I'm so much a believer in the founder approach is that whenever I had failures, they were mostly due to people, wrong partnerships, wrong key co-founders, employees, whatsoever, wrong investments. And interesting wise, with all of them, it's like 100% red line. What created the problem, after a couple of years, I felt initially, it's so crazy. It was a little glimpse or something, or how they shook their hand, or how they looked at me, or how they reacted to something. It was so small, but it was there, and I ignored it. And so I'm a big believer in the immediate pain. What you might say, I'd like to be different, but to address the immediate pain, to get into there, is the future success, and the immediate avoidance is the future big shit. So that's a big learning. That was for me a very interesting assessment. So yeah, but the answer is because of you. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. 2 more. What keeps you inspired, Kaspar?
People, relationships.
Your final message to founders.
Show up, go get what you want to get, and and offer something to the world. Sell. I'm a big believer in sales, but not. I mean, sales has a bit of cheesy aspect sometimes, but to sell is to make yourself visible, to show up, to be able to be identified, to be seen. That's, you sell yourself. You show up. Here I am, and that's what I'm going to do. And so I would say, show up and sell.
That was it. House of Trust live stream with Kaspar Neftel. It was a pleasure. I really enjoy our conversations behind and in front of the camera, just natural. I'm super excited about your journey ahead and the things that we're going to announce connected with the investment structure and Davos and everything beyond. And I just wish that you can inspire more investors to have this lens, to have this human lens, but also this sensitive lens. So yeah, guys, that was it for today. We're gonna see each other next Tuesday, 7 p.m. for the next House of Trust live stream. Until then, lots of success.
Thank you. It was a great pleasure, great opportunity to be here. Thank you, Stefan. Bye-bye.